Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining in another webinar in our AI Expert webinar series organized by Future and AI. Future and AI is India's largest and fastest growing AI community, and we make a lot of content on Instagram and LinkedIn. And we also have a pretty major newsletter. If you guys want to check us out, I'll be sure to drop in the links later. And Future and AI has been founded by Nivedan Rathi, an IIT Bombay alumnus, an ex-founding member of several tech startups, and a responsible AI adoption evangelist. He is present here today also. In our AI Expert webinar series, we have been inviting AI experts who are leveraging AI in ingenious ways for accomplishing various tasks to share their secrets. Today, we are going to cover avoiding common pitfalls in GenAI adoption for industry leaders with Sivaram. Sivaram is an alumnus of IIT Hyderabad, specializing in AI, deep learning, and GenAI product strategy and development. With experience as a solution architect and educator in AI, data, and domain-specific applications, he has advised startups and holds 2 vision-granted patents. Sivaram has previously worked at Microsoft, Amazon, Publicis, and Sensormatic. The stage is now yours, Sivaram. Go ahead with the presentation.
Thanks, everyone. A very good morning. Thanks for taking time and for this particular session. Let's get started. I'll quickly share my screen. Few things maybe. Let me quickly share my screen. Yes. So let's get started. I'll keep it as much interactive as possible. And a few things there'll be. We'll look at some use cases. We look at the generative AI trend and also success and failures in my use cases, whatever I have tried. And yes, whatever I'm currently working with startups, there are certain challenges which I'm working on as well. I'll try to present it whatever in a very relatable fashion. We'll try to do that. A few questions, maybe. Let me pull up the chat window as well. Yeah. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, it is.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. So can I get a quick 15 seconds from each one of you in terms of what is your expectation? We are going to cover GenAI adoption mistake. But in terms of what is your expectation in terms of what are you expecting to learn? Maybe in terms of one is your current perspective, you are looking at it or you are evaluating or you have tried. That's one question. And second is you have crossed, probably you are looking at GenAI for certain specific use cases or in terms of any products or startup ideas. Just take quick 15 seconds and probably can share your current perspective, like, you're upskilling or you're concerned or you've tried a few platforms or use cases. And second is more about if you are in the adoption stage, where do you stand, like, maybe after experimenting the tools, do you see that positive, negative, what are your thoughts, perspectives? That's what we'll try to look at it. How to make generative more accelerative? Okay, sure. That's a good question. Okay, a low code, no code POV point of view. Okay, accelerative. Okay, sure. Low code, no code POV. We will try to look at probably from a use case point of view, what works and what doesn't work and what has failed. And then I would position it more towards, like, what are the different patterns that we see, but again, what works and what are the failure. Brilliant. Use of GenAI for reporting from a database. Nice. Yeah, we are working on similar use cases. I think there were 2 papers as well. Maybe we'll try to check. And academic, yes. Which tools should I use for teaching? That's a nice one. Yeah, art of prompting. Okay, I'm not sure, like, art of prompting gets a little deep. We'll look at maybe why a prompt works or what are the variations when you try to solve a use case for different domain, that will definitely touch. But yeah, prompting as well, we'll see, like, from the use case point of view, what we can check. Okay, pitfalls in B2B business use cases. I think we have few use cases where we are going to look at from our analysis what is complex, what is easy, and what we can implement. How to implement GenAI for a sales-driven organization. Okay. The point is, very good question. We'll try to look at more of like we have a point of view at this point. We'll take few successful use cases, and then we'll try to dissect what is the key learning for us. Use of GenAI for conversation, use of agents. Okay, I think I've got enough. I've tried to note down everything. As we go through, we look at each of these questions. So let's get started. I mean, this is one of the recent news. I mean, last 2 days, I was just trying to look at, what are the key things that's happening around us, or something. One is general intelligence, superior intelligence, and what does the future looks like. So this is one of the headlines that caught my attention a day ago, wherein like we are going to be 10,000 times smarter, and how things are going to evolve. This is more in the future. But again, any real use cases that has been done, or any eye-catching news. So this is from Goldman Sachs yesterday's news. And like they have tried to deploy one for coding. I mean, second is for in terms of investments. If you closely look at the news, AI to translate documents, and an application that summarizes proprietary research, and an application that provides insights to advisors. So, I mean, these are all some hints which we can carry forward in terms of what trend looks like, and what is the use cases that are going to production. Again, this is more in terms of what is in the news. I will share what I have implemented, and then we probably can look at own production implementation. What is our key takeaway? And just looking back a bit, before the ChatGPT moment, we had some news in terms of, like, Facebook chatbots created a secret language, and Google claims that chatbot is sentient. I mean, this is in terms of what the news before ChatGPT moment. I don't want to deny certain things, like this is a Hadoop plan which was 6 years back. We have now changed. Now we are in AI/ML landscape, but we need to understand what are the opportunities, how to select the right use case, what are the risks associated with the use case. In the use cases, whatever I have done or made it to production, what's my learning, and what are the failures where it couldn't go to production. What is my learning outcome? That's what I'm going to share. A little bit of fundamentals, deep learning, and why LLMs work, or what is the trade-off in terms of latency, cost, consistency. That also we'll try to look at it. And all this should sum up to what should be our strategy in terms of use case selection. So let me quickly pick up one of my success stories. For one of the retailer, I worked, we were the first to implement a similar product enrichment feature, which you summary feature, which you see in Amazon, Swiggy. Now it's there everywhere. This is one of the use cases wherein, like, now if you go to Amazon or Swiggy, you have a summary section, and it clearly calls out this is a AI generated use case. This is more of you have a text related all the product reviews, and you summarize, and it tries to give you a condensed summary. I've done a similar implementation for one of US retailers. What is the differentiation here? I mean, everybody would know. I mean, we'll come to this. The next use case, what has gone live is this is vision plus LLM, and as well as recommendation. So use case is all about what are the items you have in refrigerator, and there is something called fridge blindness, wherein like people do not. I mean, there are certain items, and probably the wastage of those items are not being used properly. That was the use case. I started off with this use case a year ago, before multi-model was there. But then with multi-model, definitely the detection is good. And again, a recipe recommendation, gone are the days before GPT, wherein like you have to look and then you need to have your own content. Now with LLM, you can easily, detection is possible with vision model, and you can give a prompt in terms of what recipe you can generate. But then there are certain other nuances in terms of the architecture. We'll also look at it. Certain things, when we try to implement, from the use case point of view, I want you to think through, take a moment, and then see in these two use cases. Just look at these two use cases. Like, one is in terms of the customer summary, second is in terms of doing a recipe recommendation. In these two use cases, assume that we have to look at what would be the number of data sources, and does it contain a PI info, and what different types of data is involved here, and does this require a content moderation? What model should I pick, and do I need a human in loop for this? And what is the similarity of the data source what we have picked? We'll just quickly try to look at this particular question. Maybe first we'll try to discuss, we'll try to do together for the feedback feature, whatever we see in Amazon Swiggy. Let's try to plot. So from your point of view, can you hear me? We can't hear you loudly. Hari, am I audible for everyone? Am I audible? Is there an issue with my voice?
You are audible to me. I think the person texting should check their issue, check the audio from their end.
Sure. Thank you. So what I want is, for this question for feedback summarization, can you put it in the chat? What are your thoughts in terms of what number of data sources? Everyone in group, how do I? Meeting group chat. Okay. So just take 15 seconds. Just what I need from you is, what do you think the number of data sources that would be required for solving this feedback improvement use case? Any thoughts? You can fill one by one all together. How many data sources we have? Can you give a count, like one, structured, unstructured? Does it contain PI info? I'll just quickly take a note from everyone. Folks, if you can put a few. Can you remove the red mark?
Sivaram, only you can disable the annotating part. As a host, I cannot. As the person sharing the screen, only you can disable that.
How do I how to clear it? Clear all right. Okay, fine. Okay. I'll take from the chat only. Can you guys answer, maybe one or two folks you can answer? What do you think is the data source that is involved here? How many data sources you think it is involved here? 1, 2, 3. Parimal or Hari, do you think it has structured, unstructured, multiple data sources? Does it contain PI data? And does it need a content moderation? Any thoughts? Okay, unstructured, true. Yeah, text is mostly unstructured. So the data involved, agreed, unstructured. Yes. Verified and unverified review, agreed. Okay. Verified and unverified review, there could be variations of data. And PI info needs content moderation. Okay. Needs content moderation. Okay. Emojis and other things. Yeah, true. Yes. Great. So this is a use case wherein your focus is you are going to get the reviews. So you would need some kind of a pre-processing where you look at how do you get the content, how do you remove emojis, or how do you represent them, and how do you moderate the content where it doesn't contain a relevant section or not. But again, it's only single data source. It's not like if you are going to look at, there's one product, maybe the Goldman Sachs advertisement. If you look at it, there they have mentioned stock advisor. So if you look at it, language translation is there, content summarization is there, and they are preparing an advisory for, preparing a summary for the investors or whatever their agents out there. So there they might involve probably some PDF documents or some scanned image documents and some structured data. So the more the data gets involved, the more you're going to aggregate across sources, and then you're going to define. In this case of implementation, there is no PII, there is no PII, personally identifiable data, and there are no multiple data sources, and the data cleaning is very, very minimal, and content moderation is definitely needed to ensure that it is relevant to the product. So the complexity of the use case compared to probably an advisory use case, it's a little less. So we are we are good to go, because when you go through audit, people will look at what data you are using, do you have the consent, all of them. So it's a if you have to rate it, it's a low hanging fruit or it is a complex use case. What would be your answer for it? Okay, not complex. Yeah, true. Agreed. So let's look at the second one. This is one of the use case. So well said. The second one is going to be this particular use case where we did with respect to vision. What do you think is a challenge in this use case to do? What do you think that would have been a challenge to do in this use case? Maybe let's keep the proprietary information outside. Let me pick an analogy example. Assume that you are a CTO for an insurance firm. Okay, you need to automate the car damage assessment, and probably you can use vision or other data available. Okay, so if you are going to do a project like this, what would be your timeline for this, and what would be your probably data sources you would look out for, and how many models you may need. Coming to the second use case, to give an analogy, assume that you are a CTO of an insurance firm. You are trying to use generative AI in terms of automating a car damage assessment. You are free to use the available multi-models or generative AI model out there. And what do you think would be your the same question if you have to apply? The number of data sources, PII data involved, the variations of data, and does it require a content moderation, and does it need a human in loop? How do you collect data? What would be your answer? I feel we should analyze the yes, very true, very true. Thanks, Sai, for the answer. It helps. Video data will be crucial. Yes, definitely. Okay. So what is the timeline? How many do you think it takes? 2 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 year? If you are in a decision-making spot for this particular work, how much time do you think you will take? 6 months. Okay. Okay. 6 months. Okay. Anybody to challenge 6 months to 2 months, but you need to give a little justification about how you are able to achieve. Because any estimate is good, but if you can give a little bit immediate, okay. Thank you. Parimal, depends upon historical. Very, very valid if you have an historical data. And before insurance damages, yes, true, true. Okay, so depend upon historical. 1 month for MVP if it is good enough with historical data. Okay, fair enough. So here you are all taking a call in terms of how do I make it to production? So the variations of data, you are restricting to look at probably historical data, and PII data involved, you are trying to get from the buyer or the insurance party what it would be, and the video data. So in a way, the thought process is moving more towards what is the dependent data that we are going to look at it, and what are all the use cases we are going to solve. So another question is, will you go live? What accuracy you would go live for this particular model? Or what is your plan to address? Is it the damage occurred naturally or by himself? Okay, yeah, fair enough. If I have to ask you, how long, what would be your accuracy level to go to production for this particular use case? How much time you would take, And what is your trade-off? If you have to go live, what would be your accuracy that you will hit or try to target to reach to this particular I'll go live if I have certain both claim and reject as well historical data required valid. Okay, I mean some the team is collecting data, the team is building the model. Now need more than 95% accuracy. Okay, any challenges for this? Anybody who has another opinion or alternate opinion for this, or complementing opinion for this? Thanks, a lot of good perspectives. Let's relate it back. Like anyone who can give a plan B against what Parimal has put it out here. Need 90 plus. Okay. Let me give another alternative solution. Okay, I'm going to go live with 75%, but I'm going to do field testing, and wherever use cases are more than 90%, I will have one reviewer. Wherever use cases have more than 50%, I'll have two reviewers. Like, the lesser accuracy, more manual review. The higher accuracy, I mean, lesser manual verification. But again, this is like phase 1. Phase 2 is more about probably take all the lesser accuracy results, plus relabel them, plus augment them, and train a V2 model, and go live with V2 version in probably less than 2 months, something like this. We'll try to. Does it have a fair trade-off? Will you go with this approach, phase 1, phase 2, or you would keep working on until you reach 90 or 95%? What would be your call? What would be your trade-off if I'm going to give you a counter offer, or what would be your thought process? Phase 1 and phase 2. Okay. So this is, do you think phase 1 and phase 2, right? We also need to any doubts or questions in terms of phase 1 and phase 2? Anybody disagrees phase 1 and phase 2, or or feel you probably need to go with higher accuracy? Do let me know. We'll try to address it. And one more question I have. We are referring to many car models. Okay, so are you going to do a development? Are you going to do development for how many cars? How many car models? And how many type of damages? What would be answer to be like, what decides? Because now we have a trade-off in terms of we'll do a phased approach, and we'll try to find, and we'll try to have a human in loop, and then we'll try to go ahead. But then the question again comes, 95% accuracy for how many models, 95% accuracy for how many cars, 95% accuracy for how many type of damages? What would be your answer for that? There's right or wrong answer, so please feel free to put forward your thoughts. It definitely helps, and again, it's a collective group. We'll learn together. But again, I don't want to give specifics from the use case, but I'm trying to give a relatable example so that we will take our learning from there. Basically, it can be decided as we have more manual reviews. Okay, thanks, Parimal. Dr. Sunil, Hari, any thoughts? Maybe. I'll wait for 2 more answers. Maybe how do you decide which is many models? How do you decide how many damages? What you are going to build? How do you nail down that particular scope? what homework would you do to do that scope? Just, I mean, there's no right or wrong answer. So please put forward what you feel could be a possible answer. We'll try to discuss how many models you would do, or how many type of damages you try to answer, or what, how would you try to address this question? What, okay, segregate. Okay, great. Segregate the damages on cost accuracy. Say model is great in damaging. Okay, for a type of car. Will you do for all automobiles, or will you do for certain brands, or what decides you? Okay, car models based on, great. Thank you, Mr. Helper, for giving that help. Car models choose brand based on most bought cars. See, think about it. Many of you have changed your roles to a product manager, to a data scientist, to a responsible adoption, kind of CISO, or like a ethics. So everybody is trying to look through the problem with multiple lenses. So that's the key thing. But usually, generative AI adoption is not just a developer role, or a product manager role, or a tester role. Every lens has to be put together, because a solution is generating a prototype or generating a working use case is always easier. To give you an example, now I think we have one learning moment that we have to look. Maybe I'll give an analogy. I might skim through a few slides to go through my target slide. Just give me one moment. That slide is a very good learning. Let me, just give me one moment. The number of layers, if you look at GGNet, ResNet, or how things have evolved from AlexNet, 5-layer, 7-layer, 19-layer, and then finally you went to ResNet 150 or ResNet 420. But the accuracy has not, the accuracy has gone from 94 to 97. So this particular slide, if you look through here, first we had an image classification problem statement, 1,000 classes. The key breakthrough moment was VGGNet. Around 7.3% error we had. It had 19 layers. Then we had GoogleNet. GoogleNet had 22 layers. It reduced the error from 7.3 to 6.7. But to reduce the error from 6.7% to 3.5%, it took 152 layers. So developing a model or solving a problem and doing a prototype where you can get 60% accuracy, 20% accuracy, that's good. But you need to understand the challenge to go from 70 to 80, the challenge to go from 80 to 90, and 90 to 100. Does this slide give you a slightly different perception in terms of the journey of accuracy? Challenging, or the estimate for it? When you do software development, like assume that when you do software development, assume that you put a payment gateway. You have a payment gateway in terms of you implement Visa, then you have MasterCard. On every other vendor is an additional API that you are going to invoke. But then when you are going to improve your accuracy, typically in an AI scenario, you need to understand how you are going to improve and what is your approach to implement. This will relate to the GenAI example. Maybe as we have a relatable example, we'll quickly connect certain dots. See, this slide is doing a review and updating the Swiggy prompt review is majorly prompt engineering. There is single data. There are no diverse data sources. It's all textual. It does not include, like, structured data, financial report, language translation, some forecasting model. All of them, like, it's very straightforward, single source of data, and no PI information, and there is no translation involved. So basic prompt engineering would work. When you are going to work on probably text, image, vision, then you have a challenge in terms of how do I integrate it, how do I aggregate it, and how do I represent it. So all these things are the key. So now you need to look at my effort in terms of size of data, type of data, and volume of data I'm going to work with, and what use case I'm going to solve. This this helps us to think through what use cases has worked. Uh, measuring a generative use case or what to pick. See, now we have a good learning moment. Like if you are going to take a generative AI, probably certification or a course where people say, okay, you do prompt engineering, you give a text, and you try to run a prompt, you get a result. That's also prompt engineering or understanding how prompt works. But from solving a use case, what am I targeting and what am I going to build? How it is going to integrate to my system? Am I like sales and marketing? We had some of our use where we mentioned, generative AI for business, low code, no code. How do I make generative AI value accelerative? See, this question is very tightly connected to the two use cases what we tried, and is it going to be a quick win? And what accuracy you are going to get? Is it going to be differentiating use case, or it's going to be transformative? See, we need to look at for our use case what are all the answers for these questions. This helps us to know uh, how well we can execute. And again, you guys have made a very good answer in terms of what are all the uh, different trade-offs that we can do. So this is a very key thing. We'll look at some of the McKinsey, Gartner's, all of their case studies on what they have tried, what trend they are seeing, what is working. And again, if you have to choose a use case, I would look at three things. One is um, the similarity of a model. Like for example, let's keep another learning point question. So you are doing a you're we'll have, I think this is a good point to drill down into one another use case scenario. So let's quickly observe this particular window. Uh, I'll give a little bit of explanation. So here you have 5 use cases. Generative to create product banners, image, text, vision. And second is generative AI for creating marketing emails, hashtag emails. And third is generative AI to summarize a document. And fourth is generative AI to summarize legal document. And generative AI to recommend stock performance. In your perspective, if you're going to implement, which one? I mean, obviously there is a time to market for each one. There's a risk involved for each one, and the models which you are going to use. And I mean, in case of whatever risks you see, what is your mitigation plan and what is your release priority? Assume that uh, 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 you work in a company wherein like you have to decide what use case to go live with. What would be the use case that you would most likely pick? I mean, maybe I need one or two opinions so that we look at it. In this use case, do you pick on, in terms of easiest one, which one do you pick? What is your priority in this list out of 1 to 5 that you will go about to go to production? I'm just going to take over the answers what we get. Don't worry. Okay, 1 and 2. Okay, first you will do 1 priority, release priority. Okay, you will do 1 and then you will do thanks helper and Parimal Joshi. Okay. Parimal, okay. 1, okay. Sunil, okay. Okay. Uh, Great. Okay, Madhu, okay, fine. Okay, I have a question. If I have to go live with 3, what would be your suggestion in terms of my model choice? What do you think is your suggestion in terms of model choice? If your business says, see, we have a healthcare customer, we have to implement. Actually, 5 seems more easier. See, it depends on what data source, because it's not easy as we think, because financial data has past performance, lot of named entity recognition is involved. You need to look at the time series data. You need to look at the market sentiment. You need to look at the sector performance. So yeah, it is good. Everybody has a different perspective. But again, we need to look at, yeah, obviously, you might be thinking in terms of the diverse data sources and what is the multi-model available. Suppose if business comes back and says, can we do this care document and can we go live of with this particular use case in probably a month or 2 months or so, what would be your approach for model? Which model you would pick? Will you pick ChatGPT? Will you pick Cloud? Will you pick um, uh, uh, Google Bard or any thoughts? Or do you think you will have a human in loop? Healthcare would have a far more accuracy, would need some proven model for healthcare. Okay, okay. Small session. Yep. I'll do it. Awesome. Yeah, Nivedan. So the key thing here, what I'm trying to highlight here is every model is built upon a corpus data set. So we need to look at what is the underlying embedding. And this brings up to another question in terms of when you look at Bloomberg GPT versus ChatGPT, the type of documents, what it covers, that's a key thing. So this is one thing. So any model, what you're trying to build, ChatGPT also would work. But then when you look at Bloomberg GPT, they use the web data, news data, filings, press, and most of their information is built in with financial data only. So this is more of this will help you in terms of achieving a higher accuracy. And again, the embeddings what we are going to create, that will play a key role. I think quickly, just give me a few minutes. Annotation, I just need to stop it. Yeah. Sorry. So that's the key thing what we need to look for. So what are the other recommendations? So there are LLM models in finance, there are LLM models in legal, there are LLM models in accounting. So if you are going to build your use, definitely you need to give it a thought in terms of what models you are going to build, and identifying a use case which you need for your domain, that needs to be based on data availability and what is the latency, consistency, and how many models you're going to target. Does it involve a PII information? And how do you handle a content moderation or a human in loop? Those things are the aspects of it. Annotation, okay. So let's look at, what kind of failures I've observed and what are the key things that I would essentially say we need to look through. Buying a platform. We have a lot of platforms in terms of Databricks or Amazon or AWS or GCP. An expertise in a platform is not equivalent to a clarity in building a use case. So this thing has to be very, very clear in terms of what you are going to choose. Having clarity towards the available markets, models, that's just one aspect of it. The second one is we spend a good amount of time in terms of categorizing a use case, data, embedding, accuracy, PAI, response PAI, and human in loop. This perspective has to be put through for every use case for you to identify and prioritize what you should go ahead. So building a use case is not just a data scientist work, but a product manager and a business sponsor, a QA, all of them have to work together because the data is the key. Garbage in, garbage out. That's the key thing. And unfocused experimentation with every model. See, think about it. GPT-3, 3.5, 4, 4.0, the equivalent competitors from Google, and then Anthropic, and then Perplexity. We need to look towards what is more important in terms of what model you are going to go with, what is the accuracy that you need, and what is the data that you are going to look at. It's not like, are you going to develop a product? Are you going to accelerate a use case for marketing? Are you going to do a financial recommendation? Those are things you need to look through. A few other things. If you don't have data, I've seen use cases wherein, like, suddenly trying to attempt to build a medical healthcare use case when you don't have an expertise in terms of how do you build a pipeline in terms of healthcare, or how do you identify a legal entity or a healthcare entity. ChatGPT can work. I'm not denying that, but it can give you 50 or 60% accuracy. But to go from 60 to 70, 70 to 80, you still you are going to end up building your own custom model. Um, the third one, the next one, the demo we see, the products what we observe, that is more in terms of what works well. Trust me, there are some hard failures where in terms of using vision directly for creating ads, banners, I've struggled. Because when you zoom in an image, minor deformation in terms of hand or leg, face, you'll be able to identify. AI is good, but it's not prime ready. That's the key thing. So you need to understand, which use case that you pick that doesn't bomb you, or where you have a consistent high accuracy. And isolated management of specialized AI teams. There was a from AWS, wherein ex-AWS employees, where they mentioned Amazon employees, they had a lot of Alexa data, and why they didn't build a AI model. Because one is the compute resource, and second is there was no common shared vision. Everybody had something in their own strategy to build. So even if you have data, it's not going to work unless you know what model, what use case, and what effort you're going to put. Remember, ChatGPT was not in news. I mean, they had reinforcement human in loop, and they tried to use. There's a company tech called Sama Technologies, and Scale. I mean, they did a lot of RHLF and Instant GPT fine tuning, all of them. Again, I would say having data alone doesn't suffice. But then we did what are all the different types of news that came during that era. But you need to understand what is your use case, how you have prioritized it, and are you going to build a model or buy a model. Now we come to the key part of three things. Are you going to rely on prompt engineering, or do you need a RAG and prompt engineering? Third, are you going to build a proprietary model? This is the key takeaway in terms of what would be an aspirational thing. If you directly attempt building your own proprietary model, I would say that is suicidal. See, think about it. Learn to crawl, walk, run, fly. First, we need to know what are the low-hanging cases, what low-risk use cases we are able to go to production, and where we see user adoption, where we see things are working predictably, your platform, architecture, approach, and the users whom you are targeting, they are not your core users, but then a limited segment of users who really benefit, and then it helps them to probably automate something or process efficiency. So those are all the key things. It's not you go big bang. You need to identify what are all the key use cases wherein you build the trust with business. So it's more about what use cases that you can identify wherein it gives a relevance and importance, and people do realize the value. And in case of the financial advisory, all those use cases that will go beyond your prompting, where it will involve data aggregation, data consolidation, and summarization, translation. Multiple things would be involved. I would say that is more of a next cut use case, wherein like you have some prompt expertise, you know how LLMs work, and you know what are all the LLMs which work in certain domain, like financial domain. I'm going to use Bloomberg GPT, or I'm going to use John Snow lab model when it comes to healthcare. So that would give you a clarity of how you would handle, how you would aggregate, and how you are going to create the embedding. The embedding, the more close towards the domain, the better the result you are going to have. And connect back to our story, achieving 60% is different, 60 to 70 journey is different, 70 to 80 is different. So I think a few more are there, starting with the most complex use cases, and then procrastinating data collection for future model building. See, think about it. Right now, we are in a place where you do not have a history of tracking the model source. When you look at model complaints from all the model providers, you know, how much they are complained, have they given consent, and are models attributing to the sources where it has been scrapped. We don't know that. When you pick your use case, you may have an ambitious use case, but if you do not have data for it, if you keep waiting for building, I'm going to write the data and I'm going to build the model, that still is not going to help. This some of them I have seen, some of them I have seen where I have tried to give inputs, but then It really depends on when you talk to customer, you need to put yourself in these shoes to tell the customer which use case to pick. You need to influence based on data, complexity, accuracy, and what is your approach in terms of go to production, and what is your trade-off in terms of human in loop, audit, observability, training the model. These things will play a key role. Even in education, I would say we will have to reflect the same use case in terms of what are all my low-hanging fruits where I can do a quick prompt engineering. One of the hack thing what we tried is, we have the history textbooks. We try to use them to create images like a solar plant. You can summarize it and give it as 3 bullet points. You can generate beautiful images of windmills and hydroelectricity, wherein you need to make the learning more engaging. So I would apply the same lens in terms of identifying for every domain, probably low-hanging fruits, which may be just prompt dependent, and then going to a little bit of fine-tuning or few shot, wherein you do integrate some diverse data and target a little bit more complicated use case. Going directly to a proprietary model or going directly to building your own LLM, I would advise, it depends on the skill, talent, availability. But then when you are looking from the customer shoes, you need to consider these aspects, which would be key to be successful. It's not tools knowledge. It's not one person's responsibility. It is not just pure data science work. The data, complexity, your approach, and how you are going to collaborate with different functions, and how you are going to handle the PII data, the review data, and the recipe recommendation. They don't involve any PII data. But then if you are going to send a personalized email, how are you going to assess the person of the customer? How are you going to anonymize it? How are you going to ensure the data is secure? All these things play a key role. We are evolving in multiple stages, but I hope these pointers guide you in terms of making a cautious in terms of how to select the use case and what are all the underlying things that you need to learn from other failures. Like you have seen failures in terms of a chatbot promising $1 insurance or generating wrong images, or think about it. It's more about uh, AI is AI. There are certain things in AI where still it doesn't work. Maybe I think um two more slides and I'll probably for questions. So this is left side. What you see is a Tesla car, which started stopping, assuming the billboard is a cop. This right side you would have seen where this person tricked Google in terms of creating an artificial traffic jam. Uh, See, AI can detect, but humans can do better than AI in certain situations. Our understanding of generative AI should be more based on what are the trade-off and where it can work, how do we improve upon it. And for every technology, you will have probably, this is a 1988 against calculator when it was introduced. People might see a perception of, it is good, bad, or AI is good, bad. I'm not trying to take any stand, but rather I would suggest we should know what use case we pick. We should know what is the data part of it, what is the embedding, what is the accuracy we are targeting, what is our production workflow, what is our training, retraining workflow, how are you going to augment it? These things are the key, or else it will be generative AI is going to be like a blind man and the elephant, where everybody is trying to document their own perspectives. But again, I hope you get the clarity. And probably a checklist is something is what I would suggest if you are going to pick what embedding you're going to choose, what domain specific LLM you're going to target, what is your target audience and risk, the accuracy you're going to do. Are you going to do prompt or RAG or custom model? How are you going to beta test? Do you have any golden trust that you're going to collect? What custom metrics you're going to have for your domain? What is your answer for latency, consistency, observability? How are you going to evolve the model for different releases? Trust me, generative AI is not alone. I've seen more cases where I have to come down from LLM to building custom model and then try to do the trade-off in terms of intent recognition or summarization or topic modeling. All those things are needed. So LLM plus prompt engineering plus limited data is a good prototype. But LLM plus deep learning plus quality plus data and doing all the pre-processing, only that iterative effort can give us a production ready or production grade or consistent architecture, I would say. Doing a POC is definitely easier, and building a foundation model is, taking a foundation model and then aggregating different data sources, that may take time, but that's the right approach. Again, you would see both sides of the coin, hype versus reality. But I would say any use case you pick, these guidelines should guide you on what you want to pick, how you want to solve. And again, take generative AI with your own conscious decision, what we have observed right now in terms of your perspective of it. I'll probably pause it here. I know the little bit of speed I try to cover, but I hope you are able to connect to what I've shared. I'm open for questions. We can take a few questions, but I hope the intent of what mistakes that can happen, how it can be influenced without the proper background checks, and how you can assume I can take an LLM model and build 100% accuracy, how that road looks like. Is it realistically possible? I hope you got some clarity. Can you explain one of the use of generative AI in generating graphical reports? Okay. Parimal, any standards or proven approach? See, Parimal, two things. One is, I'm working with several customers in startup space. One thing is, from the failures, what I have seen, what has not worked, we try to put the checklist in terms of, assume that you are building an app, the guardrails. Okay, very good point. We assume guardrail, low rank adoption, or perf fine tuning, all of it. But observe it so very, very, very closely. If a model, when you are going to take a model, the model is a representation of, if you have to take this ChatGPT or the Bloomberg one, I'll go back one more time. This is a very, very good point what you have brought up. This is the distribution of data. You need to understand where it can fail, and this data holds the key. Suppose if you are collecting data and the data is not audited, if the data has probably a political bias, if the data has a religious bias, if the data has highly opinionated thing, then the data will go ahead in the model, and the model is going to demonstrate that behavior. By having a guardrail that ensure this does not contain any sensitive information, ensure it does not hurt anybody's opinion. You can put a guardrail and say, I won't show because it is like this, I won't show because it is like this. But understand, the fixing the root of the problem is going to give you a better model, not building a patch of guardrail on top of it. At the again, right now we are in a world where you have large language model, and wherever like there is one report from Stanford wherein I think this is a good slide for us, all of us to look at it. Just give me one more second. Probably we should look at that together. Sorry about it. I won't take more time. Just give me a minute more. I'll probably before this particular slide. All the LLM models, whatever you see, this represents how much data sources they have credited and what is the copyrighted data. Nobody has clearly called out from where they took the data. That's why you see a lot of litigation that's happening. So if you look at it, GPT or Llama or Bloom or Palm 2, Cloud, like copyrighted data, everything is 000 except Bloom. You can take the web data, but the web data is, do you think is a representativeness? Web data has all the opinions fixed. It has all the garbage cleaned up. It has all political content on all the moderated content cleaned up. No, a guardrail is just a fix. This is a reflection of the quality of data what we have. And probably future models cannot be like this. If you are going to put a suit about my data, then it has to do. The models have to learn to unlearn, learn to relearn, and learn to improve upon. So I would say guard low rank adoption. Those are all fixes. But look at the base foundation. That would be a better way to build a better model and a domain-specific model than having one model for all. That's what I would say, Parimal, for your question. And I hope you're able to connect it. And Dr. Sunil, coming back to your question, for generating graphical reports, see, generation of the report is one part, but the data for the report, one is understanding the data and preparing a summary of a report. I have seen, I'm sure if you have used Gamma data app, and there are a few other applications. So as long as you have the underlying data and you can guide this prepare a flow chart of this table. Under the hood, it might call a Python function or a plotting function, which is going to call to represent a graph bar chart. So there are two parts of it. One is making an LLM to interpret or prepare a data set. Second is making an LLM to generate a code to generate a plot for it. Jasper.ai or a few other things, they may work, but I'm not, I've generated presentations, I've generated videos from content, but I've not exactly looked at generating a graphic report, but I'm sure it should be doable because when AI can, with LLM, I'll summarize and prepare the data. Next, you can, given a particular table, if you have the code to plug in and to generate a report, I think that also should be doable. It should be, I don't have a specific use case that I work, but definitely I would divide the problem into multiple parts, understanding of the data, and second, the necessary table for it, and third, probably invoking a certain code, which would represent type of report what we are looking for. Parimal Joshi. Yes, I was looking at whether a good question. There are a lot of standards coming up, NIST, and again, European standard, GDP. Everybody is coming up with a standard. So gone are the days where you can take your data and train your model as is. Now people are asking for accountability. Take what you have trained, show what you are doing, and everybody who signs up with OpenAI, they are asking for enterprise privacy. Like OpenAI, you please ensure you don't use any of the data what we give for your training. So the war has just, well, not the war, the fixing has just started. These frameworks give a lot of laundry list, but if you keep checking each of them, going to production is going to be a challenge. But rather, I would say pick a use case which has less PI data, which can be handled with prompt fine tuning, which can go live in 1.5 months, and then you probably can handle once you get the trust from business. And if you look at 2025 report from McKinsey, that kind of sets the same tone. So if you look at it from February 2024, people see more in marketing around this area. There are some applications in production, like the darker things, sales and operation, customer onboarding, marketing, customer service. These are all certain patterns which is observed. But then people have also seen a failure. Generative AI has caused inaccuracy, explainability, regulatory compliance. See, think about it. This is not an outcome. The model inherently does not have a stable representation of all the embedding. It is bound to happen. But it is for you to see how you are going to handle and what are your design choices in terms of handling it. And I think the most optimistic thing is sales and marketing and software development, where you see a positive change in terms of the perspective, and there's a negative change in terms of natural processing and legal. And because obviously legal will not work. My intent, I would say, legal, you have to go with a domain specific model, not with ChatGPT. So people, when you go to domain specific model, you will see a negative adoption. Obviously, it's not meant to be treated as a medical LLM. So there and finance LLM are coming up. So cases where you try to use a blanket foundational model, it would not work. I think thanks a lot. These questions are very, very, very good, and it kind of gives us the perspective. But it helped me to some of the market content as well as where we see the trend happening. I think that's good. Thanks, Sandeep. Thanks, Parimal. Thanks, Dr. Sunil. I hope I have answered your question. Maybe I'll give me a few minutes. I can share my LinkedIn as well. But yeah, thanks a lot to Nivedan, Futures and AI team. because this is a lot of collaborative effort. I do see a lot of different diverse participation from this, and the type of questions, it's very, very engaging. I hope this session is able to give you the perspective of how do you filter the noise of the signal from noise, and what would be your checklist to identify an use case. I'll pause it here.
Yeah, as
Yes.
Nivedan said, thank you everyone for attending our session today. And thanks a lot for Sivaram for sharing all this information with us.
Sure. Thank you, team. It helps. Thanks, Greta.
Shiva, could you please share your LinkedIn for people to
Sure,
connect
sure.
with you?
I'll do it. Yeah, just give me a moment. I'll do that. Yeah. That's it. I've shared my LinkedIn. A lot of
Cool.
questions. Thanks, Greta.
Exactly. I can see a lot of engagement over here. So pe people, I know you might have questions, so you can reach out to Shiva on LinkedIn and asking few questions further. Also, we'll be opening up the WhatsApp group for interaction, so you can continue the interaction over there as well. And very soon we'll be sharing the recording of this whole webinar. Like we'll upload the webinar on YouTube and then share the link on the group that we have, and from there you can like rewatch the whole webinar. And yeah, that's it, everyone. Thanks a lot for joining in, and thanks a lot, Shivaram, for this insightful discussion. It was great working with you. And yeah, I'll see everyone around. I'll see you all around. Bye. Have a good day, everyone. Have a good weekend. See you. सुखमन मीटिंग एंड कर देना यार.